The author is here.
Yeah, so, I don't know if it's gone out as yet, but welcome and also
Thank you.
Congratulations on the win over the weekend. If you can just maybe touch on the first game that is passed and also going into Chiefs.
Yeah, good afternoon to the members of the media. Maybe I should apologize in advance because my voice is not so good today. I'm battling the flu, so yeah. No, I think a good game. In retrospect, my feelings after the game were not as positive as after I watched it. We know we can play better. We are striving and working every single day to get better, training hard, doing a lot of analysis with the video work, and trying to put in the shift. So we focus on improving the performances, and by improving the performances, we try to make sure that we are good enough or strong enough to win every single match, and that's the focus. So happy that we started with the 3 points. The first games of the season are always very, very difficult, and as you've seen, and you will see also next week with the other teams in the big leagues. And so we have to just continue getting better, working harder to improve the performance of the team.
Any questions from the floor?
Coach?
Yes, sir. Sure, Katlam.
Coach, judging by what you've seen from their first game, Kaizer Chiefs, and also their preseason, what have you made of them? Have you seen any signs of improvement from the team?
Well, the starting point is we have to respect every team. We have to respect all our opponents, and Kaizer Chiefs is no different. The rivalry between Mamelodi Sundowns and Kaizer Chiefs, and already that makes it a big encounter. The performances of the team, of course, you have to also gauge in relation to some of the changes that have been made from a technical perspective. Of course, now you've got a new coach, so he needs time to work on his ideas and get the players to adapt to a different way of doing things. And it's a little bit clear, even though it doesn't move too far away from the 4-2-3-1 that they employed, but there are moments where it's a little bit more aggressive over 4-3-3, and the front three is a little bit more in the advanced line than in the previous season under Coach Arthur. And that also shows with the profile. You've got Ranga, you've got possibilities of Saile, who's a striker but plays there. Ashley Dupree plays up front, and then you've got a front three that really in the profile of the makeup is strikers in the last line or in the front line. And still with a midfield two in the base, and they've played around with that combination, whether it's Castillo with Zwane or Castillo with Sitebe, or like yesterday when they had Yusuf Mart and Castillo, so they've got that, and then to give possibilities for a 10. And they've also tried different players in that position. Dansane has been tried there, both inside and outside. Potsane has been tried inside and outside in the friendlies. And they had Ngobo and Shabalala interchanging into that position yesterday. So that gives them that possibility of having a second striker, and depending on the profile of the second striker, it is either a central midfield that collapses closer to the 6s and the 8s, or a 10 that collapses a little bit closer to the number 9. But you still have very aggressive fullbacks with Hlanti and Rifrosla, so you know those possibilities of final third entries, crosses into the box where they are very aggressive with that. And for sure, maybe the biggest improvement, and against Chippa, you saw 2 or 3 very good actions where Chippa went onto the sides. But I think the 2 centre backs give them a lot of stability this year. We're a lot stronger in defending the box with Ditokwe and Msimango. So those possibilities show a big improvement on their side in relation to that. But yeah, as I said, big respect to them. From a physical profile, they've got enough to hurt you, both in open play and on set pieces. So yeah, we've got to also understand that it's a team that's in the process of improving itself, and it does seem to me that qualitatively they've improved a lot.
Thanks, Coach.
Sure, Tsepo.
Looking at, I want us to talk about Thabiso. Looks like he has hit the ground running at the friendlies. He scored, and we saw him over the weekend, last Friday. He scored. How, as a foreign, how easy was he to fit into the Sundowns when he was starting to play?
To answer your question, maybe it's a two-pronged approach for me, because the work started even before preseason, part to ending last season after the technical report and ways to look at how we improve. There was a lot of work, and as I said, excuse me, and as I said in my previous interviews, a lot of work was done by senior management and in particular the sporting director Fleming Berg and their department from a recruitment perspective, where we looked at numbers, we looked at possibilities of certain areas from our metrics and our way of playing that we felt we could improve. And once we had targeted a couple of players in those positions, we then went and did some very thorough analysis, and so we could win the race of recruiting them on time. Time as a factor gives you so many advantages. The first is from a social perspective, the integration happens with a little bit more time, and we started that process long ago. So before he even arrived, he was watching our games. We were having Zoom meetings between himself and myself, and showing clips and getting him into already the way of thinking of how we want to play. And we used also Marcelo in that space, but that already gave us that possibility. And then from the second space was also to have them training from day one, So that has helped, and I still think we haven't seen the best out of him yet. I think he's still trying to find his feet. He has to acclimatize to the league. The league is a little bit more intense with the marking and a little bit more robust with the duels, and he's gonna have to adapt to that quite quick. And so we've got to be patient and give him the support that he needs to be able to settle in and make a contribution like we know he can. Sure, Mazola.
Is there any update or clarity on a home venue for the club this season? Because when the fixtures came out, they had not just, but it looks like it's changing ever so often.
Yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation, but it's not a situation we will have to face for the entire season. So fortunately, we have only the first 2 months to undergo this voyeur sort of approach where we move. But the reality is we are happy with that. We can use Lucas, and I've got to compliment the club, because the club has gone out of its way to upgrade the facilities from not just the grass but the turnstiles, and improve the lights, and that has come at a cost to the club. But that investment is worth it, because it allows our games to be played closer to our supporters, and that's important for us, because our supporters are very important. They're the heartbeat of this club. They give energy, and when they play the drum, it galvanizes the team a lot. So it was very important that we still get access to a stadium that our supporters can attend the games. And yeah, we've tried, as I said, we tried to even change fixtures. We tried to even say to Chiefs, The first round must be their home game, and then we'll host in the second round. But it couldn't happen. We tried to use FNB. That couldn't happen. So we went to that space where we settled for Lucas, and I think for the interim, I think that was the best decision.
Thank you,
Coach,
Sure,
well
Titi.
done on your first period of the season.
Thank you, sir.
With a fairly new team, but I'm looking at you bringing over a young Thabiso Masego, and then getting a debut appearance with Sundowns on a big match, which were under pressure because it was quite a big ask for a young man. But what does it bring into the team? And then as well, adding Mailula, one of the youngsters that you've always spoken highly of.
Yeah.
Before he even played for the first team, you always said, he's coming.
Yeah.
He came and he's gone. What do you make of his move? And just as a tribute to him, what can you say?
Yeah, I've spoken extensively about Kashi. I think the first part is to thank him for his incredible contribution, and not just to the first team, but his stint with 9 years in the club, and having come from the academy, he makes life for our academy and the recruitment of young talented players a little bit easier, because now he, as a flagship, he then says it's possible to go to Sundowns, and not only just to go to Sundowns in the academy, but to get promotion to the first team and to make it in the first team, and also to go overseas. And that pathway normally has always been seen as one that is not clearly visible. And so what Cassius has done is leave an incredible mark that I think the club will benefit for many, many, many years. And so we have to thank him for that. Thank him for the goals and the assists and the running, the pressing, the humility and the selflessness that he demonstrated while he was with us. An incredible human being. I think Cassius has still even more potential than we saw, and hopefully they can squeeze a little bit more out of him in the future. And I expect nothing less. I expect him to probably even move to Europe. I think this move to the US is for me a stepping stone rather than a move towards a destination, and that's my input on the matter, is to thank him, but also to wish him all the best in his future endeavors.
Then Masego.
Yeah, Masego is interesting. He excites me. These type of players excite me because they ask questions of coaches. They have the natural abilities now, and now it's for us to refine. And maybe not before we even refine, we have to define. When you see Masego, you see a player that still positionally doesn't have some form of belonging on the pitch. And that sometimes is not so much of a bad thing. Versatility in being able to play, and in my opinion at the moment, I think he can play in the 4 positions on the front line. He can play right striker, left wing, right wing. He probably could play as a 10. He probably still could, like Tapelo Morena, could play as a full-back, wing-back. But I think a player with so much quality and so much natural ability needs a role that is clearly defined for him, and that's the work now that we have to do. We have to help him to get into specializing in a specific position, where you keep the multifunctionality of the player, but you also allow him to specialize in a specific role and in a specific position, and let's see. We're trying to work on him, and being a young player, it's very clear. Like with Cassius, for an example, it was the same with Percy. It was the same with the late Madisha. It was the same with Mkulisi. These young boys that we were able to get. It was the same with Promise, and what that experience has shown me is that a lot of us think that the development of youngsters is linear. It's just a straight line, that they get better and better and better. And sometimes we forget that there are moments in their careers where they've got to regress before they make progress and before they improve. And so we've got to be very patient, and this is why I've always said, be patient and not make too much noise about the youngsters, because when you hype them up too much in the good moments, it's very difficult for them to come up and galvanize themselves in the difficult moments. Last season, when I kept saying, not too much noise on Cassius, people say, oh, but the coach. And at the end of the season, we find a situation of a Dele Ali coming out and expressing how difficult it was for him when he had experienced the highs and the popularity and the fame, and how he melted into depression when he had the lows. And the lows are inevitable. They are part of the process. And so with Maseko is the same. There's going to be very good moments and some great moments, and I anticipate that. But I also think we have to be patient, because there's going to be some low moments, but these are the moments that are so necessary for him, not only to develop his skills and the qualities, but also to develop the soft skills, where there's perseverance that needs to be developed, and character needs to be tested and developed, and so it's a process, and it's a process that is not necessarily linear. It's going to have its ups and downs, its shuttles to the left, to the right, and we just have to be there to support him through, like we do with all our youngsters.
Coach,
Sure, Lawrence.
you signed 5 players, and you see something interesting you wanted to do, be swift in the market, obviously to get players ready for pre-season and things like that. But does it suggest that you guys are finished now with incomings? And then we saw Kutumela on the pitch, and that usually suggests that if he's with the first team, he might not be going anywhere. So, is there any clarity on
that? I have, this is a very difficult time in the season, because I've also got to protect not just my integrity, but the integrity of the club, because when I speak on behalf of the club. And so I can't mislead or misinform, not just you guys, because you've got a responsibility also to inform the public and our supporters, and they want to know. But I've also got to manage the situations, because transfers are very delicate. Delicate in the sense that it has to be the player, it has to be the club, and the interested party. So with Kutumela, there is interest, but we have to wait, because it has to make sense for, as I said, for the tripartite, you call it, it has to make sense for the player, and the player has to be happy. It has to make sense for the mother club, and the club has to be happy. And of course, it has to make sense from that perspective for the interested party. So you have to be patient within that regard, with regards to the transfer of any of the players that are still here. In relation to your first question, I said at the end of last season, I said we will make 5 changes to the squad. We'll have 5 incomings. A couple will leave, and not too many, and you've seen already. And we've got our 5. I would say that we are not done yet. I do expect 1 more, but it's only because of what has happened during the season, or the pre-season now, with regards to 1 or 2 injuries that have left us a little bit thin in one position. So we are working on trying to strengthen that position, and I would say to you, after that is done.
Thanks, Coach.
Sure, no.
Coach, I have 2 unrelated questions.
Sure.
I don't know if Prashoops will allow me. The first one is the venue, the change of venue. Sundowns, since your return in 2020, I think Sundowns have played about 6 or 7 matches at Lucas Masapisis Multiple Stadium, and they've only won one, which also was a draw, was a shootout against Chiefs. Do you put that down to anything? Is it different size of pitch, or is it just one of those? And then my second question is, Coach, we saw your team line up on Friday, and it's totally different. It's totally different from how you lined up last year. Last year you had the diamond. This year it's, I don't know how to even define it, but we will figure it out as the season goes. Okay, but one may say, what about continuity? This diamond was blowing the whole of the continent away last season, and what about continuity? Why not build on that? And then what was it anything that you saw? Did you figure out that you wanted to play more with? Because I see in your signings or what. So why not the continuity and a new shape?
Yes, I like the second question because it's football. I love football question and tactics. First question, I wasn't aware, and thanks for informing me. I'm going to use that as part of my talk to the players because it's important. But I don't know. I will investigate that. We have tried to check the specifications from a width and depth perspective of the pitch, but I'm not so sure of the accurate readings at the moment. So we will see how we approach that. The second question, I don't want to. Let me start off by saying that I had a colleague of mine, a friend, very close friend, who's an analyst for one of the top teams in Europe, called me after the game, and his comment was, "So I hope I make you feel better," because his comment was, "I don't know what you guys are doing. I'm trying to figure out the formation. I'm lost," and I said my answer to him was, "That's the point," because I felt when during the off season and going into the work that we did is as soon as the league was wrapped up, the Wydad game was a case in point, Golden Arrows, Amazulu, and so many other games, I felt we had become so predictable, and that people knew we overloaded the center with the diamond, and we had the 4 players, and all they did was narrow their defensive structures and keep compactness, and we had a lot of problems, to try to find different possibilities to break down the opposition structure. And so, as simple as it may sound, even with a lot of other details, but of course I can't share that here, the reasoning was to try not only, like we moved from the 4-3-3 in the first season, and we moved to the 4-4-2 with the 2 false nines the second season, and then we moved into the 4-4-2 diamond, and now we move again into a different type of structure, which keeps, I think, all 3, in fact, still within the space, is to just try to make ourselves less predictable, is to try to have different ways of hurting the opponent, and develop a chameleon type of approach to our team personality, where we know we can overload certain areas, and we can use different positions to overload. We overloaded last season with a left back. We overloaded with a striker at times. We overloaded now with a centre back, but generally is still keeping the principles where we can get overloads and superiorities, and then try to be a bit more vertical with our possession. But yeah, it's still a work in progress, and it doesn't mean that you won't see us playing the diamond. For one, you will probably still see us playing the diamond, but you'll probably see us play a lot more formations this season. We've got so many players that, especially with the work that we did to be very specific with our recruitment. And even though you may say to me, yeah, but Lucas Ribeiro is left-footed, and Nku is left-footed, and Maseko is left-footed, and so you're looking at the majority of the signings and you're saying, yeah, most of them are left-footed, but there is a specific reason for that. And what it does, it allows us to be a little bit less predictable, and now we can develop different ways to hurt the opposition.
So we'll have the last 4 questions. So we'll start with Mtogo, as the hand, the hand, and the hand, and the rest.
Okay, coach.
Sean Togo.
Quite fascinated by how Pep Guardiola keeps a very lean squad. Doesn't use too many players in a season. And when I look at Sundowns, I think you've got quite a fairly big squad.
Yeah.
How difficult is it to manage it? Ideally, how many players would you keep in a season? And then maybe the second one, just an update in terms of injuries.
Yeah. It's a fascinating case study that about squad size, and there was a very interesting, for sure, I'm sure you know, with his physical trainer and the seminar he held, and talking about squad sizes and why the benefits of keeping, and for sure it's true, because part two of keeping a big squad is the challenge of trying to make everybody happy. And that becomes very, very difficult, especially if all of them are in a similar range of being good enough to start, and being good enough to start at Sundowns and maybe elsewhere. But the reality of the matter is, even though we'd love to keep a little bit less, we are, someone in the off-season said to me, asked a very complicated question, and they said to me, needs must. And they left it at that. And I think that statement always answers very complicated questions. Needs must. What we need, unfortunately, is players to cover us for 6 competitions. And 6 competitions that have one complicated competition with the African League. And that's complicated because if you look at that competition, and it's similar to with the Champions League, is the same story. Is if you look at South African football, for an example, how many coastal teams win the Premiership? There's very few. I remember maybe Santos, I remember maybe Manning Rangers. I remember Ajax getting very close to winning the league and only coming second. But as much as that, it could be about quality and all of this. Traveling has an incredible amount of influence in that. And so when you have to travel from Joburg to Joburg for 70% of the games, and that restricts the teams that are in and around that area have a big positive or an advantage. It's similar to the Champions League or the African competitions, where the teams from the down south, there aren't too many teams that are from neighboring countries. And so you understand that majority of your time is spent in traveling to West Africa, Central Africa, maybe East Africa. But for sure, you've got 60% of your travels to the north. And whereas Tunisia can take you 1 hour, 2 hours, maybe to get to Morocco. Egypt, a couple of hours to get to Morocco. And so the teams that are in the north who populate the competition get incredible advantages in terms of their fixtures and scheduling and travel fatigue. And that makes it as one of the reasons, and one of the most important reasons, why you have to have a squad so big, because there are moments where you travel 18, maybe even 19 hours to Morocco, to Algeria, and then you've got to come back, and the next day you've got a fixture, and without enough players for rotations and to keep game intensity and freshness, you put yourself in a bit of a complicated situation. That is not even considering suspensions that could come up, injuries that could come up, because of course with an increased amount of game load, an increased amount of traveling fatigue, and that the chances of injuries become even higher. So to mitigate those, you've got to try to have enough personnel, and not only just one option, 2, maybe even 3 options per position. And it becomes very difficult to then take the exact synopsis of that understanding into Europe, because Man City goes to Germany. And that is you could even use a subway. They could even use a bus. You know, they go to France. The traveling system in Europe is less taxing from a physical perspective. So even though you'd like to globalize the thinking, and you would think that one solution for one big club, it can exactly match another problem or permutations for another big club. There are actually other considerations that need to be put into place, and one of the biggest is that the number of competitions, the number of games, and much more importantly is the number of hours we spend traveling, and then maybe you understand sometimes the craziness in the logic in the craziness. I think that's how it's put. The logic in the craziness. Injury updates. Yeah. We don't have too much. Thapelo Morena is out, hamstring, which he picked up on the trip. We have Nasir Abubakar still struggling, but we expect him to be back soon, within the next 2 weeks. Kulisi picked up a knock in our last friendly, so he's still out. And those are the major concerns. Those three. Otherwise, we've got everyone almost in a space where they are fit and ready to go. Just
from surgery.
yeah, Rashin is. Oh yeah, we've updated that. Yeah, Rashin is still post surgery, so that's the one. That also is a bit more long term. Thanks, Shubs.
Coach, getting back to the game on Wednesday.
Sure.
We know that profiling your opponent is a very big part of the job. But getting back to the stadium situation, what report are you getting in terms of the pitch itself? You know, it hasn't been used in a while. Are you happy with that? Are there any concerns? Or are you confident that everything is good in terms of the pitch side?
No. Fortunately, I drove to Lucas last week Sunday to assess the pitch, and we took a couple of the technical personnel, staff members that work also on the pitch here. So there's been some incredible advancements in that space, and even though I don't think it will be the best pitch possible, but I think it will be in a good enough condition to host a good game of two good teams.
Coach,
Sure.
look, modern trends I've noticed of late, you know, the technical teams, most clubs are getting bigger and bigger with each passing season, you know.
Yeah.
Last season, Ribeiro actually said we shouldn't be surprised in years to come when the technical team becomes bigger than the actual squad, you know. I mean, at Sundowns, we've been leading the way in that space, you know, of having a fairly bigger technical team.
Yeah.
How does that then affect the dynamics of you standing as the head coach, having so many people around you, you know, and probably making sure that whatever it is that you need to implement according to how you want it to be done?
Yeah, I hold a different view. I think you'll have less and less people in a technical team in the next few years. I think everything will be done robotically. I think society is moving. I saw the other day a McDonald's was open and they had no human resource. Everything was done by you paid to a robot. You gave your card to the robot. You made your order to a robot. He prepared the patty and the burger. The robot did it. And very soon, that's what's going to happen. The players will be coached by earphones that will be put through decision makers that are connected to the laptops and those. And that's just my opinion. I look at artificial intelligence as something that's close to having an influence on society, like global warming, because that's where it's going. Professors are marking papers of students through artificial intelligence. Movies are now being written, and the script is now being written by artificial intelligence. There's now no producers, writers, everything is just done robotic. And so my feeling is that in the next few years, very, very, in fact, you already see it, where analysis is done now. You just type in and you say, what are the strengths and the weaknesses of Kaizer Chiefs? And chat GPT, chat GPT gives you a whole synopsis, a whole analysis report on the opposition. So do you need an analyst to go and watch and travel to Durban to go and watch Chippa versus Chiefs? No, because all the data, all the write-ups, your colleagues, you guys write, how was the game? You write how the storyline. It collects all the stories that have been written, tries to formulate one common thinking. It then includes the data. So when StatsBomb releases a report, or Instat releases a report and says Chiefs had 10 shots on target, and it then formulates all of those and gives you now a directive. So very soon, that's what's going to happen. And I don't think that's what will also now happen is the people that will stay and become non-redundant are the people that will be even more creative than the robots. The people who are able to think outside the box and to interpret information and data a little bit more and a little bit better. And that will go into every sphere of professional conduct or space. So that's what I think. How it helps here at Sundowns is you have specialists. So when you have specialists, you allow people to make special contributions that are beyond your space of work. What it means is something very similar to what I learned when I went to Liverpool. And the clear job of a head coach is to make sure that you know just enough. You don't know everything, and you can't know everything. And that's why you have a head of performance and a conditioning coach and a nutritionist and an assistant coach and a set piece coach. And these are people who specialize and focus 100% on that space. But you know just about enough. You know just about enough so that you understand the level of the people that you're working with. And then you also can delegate responsibilities in relation to the specialities that certain people have. And so when you conduct different discussions with your technical personnel, you are able to gauge how much knowledge the person has by even merely learning so much from them. And then you are able to say, this person knows so much more about this topic, and therefore is excuse me, it's only correct that you delegate that responsibility to that person.
I think we'll discuss on cover in terms of the colors. Okay, then. All right.
Thanks, Coach. That's
Sure,
why
it's a problem.
I would like to see a high-scoring game on Wednesday, looking at the fact that all the first games of the season.
Football is football. I don't know. I really don't know where the game will go, in which direction it will go. I think the first few minutes won't be so open. I don't think Chiefs, when I looked at their game against Chippa, I don't think they are that type of team to play very open. I think a little bit more conservative than last season. So I don't know. We've got a lot of work to do to try to break them down, to tell you the truth, because the defensive line of four, it's very compact with two screeners is a common feature. And you saw it against Chippa United. So, yeah, but football is football. The one that scores the first and earliest goal, I think, has even better possibilities, because then the game produces more transitions than you normally would have, And you know that the PSL, when you have transitions in the PSL, you have a lot of possibilities to score.
Thank you, Coach. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I tried not to touch anyone's phone and.